Hi everyone and welcome to today's watercolor tutorial. Today I'm going to paint my model Veda and I will try to make it as realistic as I think it should look. And I also want to make a nice study, so I don't just want to copy it 100% because we want to make a nice painting today. First of all, I'm gonna wet the entire canvas because I want to make a basic layer of paint and make some beautiful like wet effects. So we want to make just the whole paper wet. The paper is Fabriano hot pressed extra white paper. They sell it in like more of a yellowish version and an extra white version. For this one, the yellowish version would have been, I think this is the yellowish version. Yeah, I think it's not extra white, so I don't really mind. Sometimes I think like the yellowish version of the paper also can make the artwork look a little bit more maybe romantic, so I don't mind very much. So at first I mix a brown tone with Venetian brown, which looks like burnt sienna. So you can also use burnt sienna. So just a very light brown tone. And I'm touching the surface. So we want to have a nice blurry like effect that goes over the whole paper here. So when you see on the reference, there are almost no white tones. So everything that is very light here are the eyes and maybe the tip of the nose. But everything else is pretty muted, so I don't have to be super careful with the colors that I place on the paper here. So I think to this photo, the color purple and blue would fit good, I think. So I'm mixing a bit ultramarine blue here and a bit of indigo blue, which is a very dark blue. And I use this for the hair, and I just also make it a bit in the background so that it nicely bleeds here in this area. Okay, now I'm using a bit purple, just adding some of the purple tone and more of the Venetian brown. Especially the area here around the neck is very dark, so I can, without hesitation, add more of the brown tones here. The hair, of course, has to be dark, so I need to get way more darker, and for that I'm using again indigo blue and Venetian brown or burnt sienna. I don't want to go into the face though, so I will just touch the borders of the hair here. I don't want the color to bleed too much into the face. So I'm just going to carefully add it here around the border. Looks already pretty nice, I think. And here at the bottom I can add more, I can make it more dark, so I'm mixing more just regular black into my paint, just adding it here. It looks so nice already. I really like the effect. And you see how the gray already goes into the face. So with this effect we need to be careful. I think that's nice. Okay, now I take this brush here and make it wet. This is the same brush but in another size, and I will just carefully here follow the border of the face because I don't want this effect to go too much like into the face. We don't want that. Okay, I want to add more blue to the composition because I think this would look nice. Again, just ultramarine. My palette is so muddy. I don't even get the pure color out of my pens. This is like the curse of watercolors, I think. It's always muddy. So I want to have it a bit more like turquoise, so I'm using cobalt turquoise, I think is the name of the paint. So now the paper has already dried a bit, so the color doesn't bleed as much anymore. So I will use less color and more water so that it's not so strong. I like the purple there, just adding more purple and ultramarine. This was a bit too strong, so I'm just taking it with the wet brush, lifting it off a bit. And I will also use a bit more of the brown here. So I want to have a nice light turquoise in the background, but it will mix with the other colors. So first I will dry it with the hairdryer, but I just noticed I can add some more paint to the face before I do that. So I will mix some cadmium red for the cheeks and a bit of the pink that I have, the magenta. Just adding it here. Cheek area, and with the wet brush I'm spreading it and I'm just distributing it on the face here. And we can take it on the lips too, because the lips are very red here, so no problem. Like that. Here I can add a bit of this tone, and here under in the neck area too. Okay, now I'm going to get the hairdryer and add the next layers. Okay, it's now finally dried. The tape that I used doesn't really survive the heat of the hairdryer, but I have this with every tape I use. So this is an artist tape. When I use normal tape, it's even worse, so I'm happy that at least this one did stick a bit better here. Just, it still doesn't adhere to the wooden mortar anymore. But anyways, okay. Now I want to add this another layer of blue to the background, just to make the sketch a bit more appealing. And this is just ultramarine blue and a bit of turquoise. The color is not really that intense, I guess. I would really like to have really intense watercolors, or maybe colors. I think it's not the problem of the watercolors, but the moment when I mix them, they might maybe lose a bit of their brightness. So I ordered a new watercolor set yesterday, an extra pastel watercolor set. So I'm excited and see if this maybe gets me more brighter effects. Okay, this is just a bit more of the turquoise. And I will just add more water here. Don't want to have it too intense. This is a hair, a hair of the brush. Okay, like that. And maybe some like more spots for the hair. So now I can go more crazy with the hair, because there's no risk that the color go into the face again, because I didn't touch the face. So I can just go here along the face and add some of the darker tones here. So that looks nice. I will just add more brown to it. Okay, I don't want to get too dark here for the moment. I will only add some of the effects on the left side of the face too. So I might start with wetting the area first. So I will use my other brush here. Just making it a bit wet. Doesn't have to be super like accurate here. It can just be a bit messy. That can be very beautiful. So I will just add some of the colors here and a bit of brown so that it matches to the other side of the head. Yeah, that looks very nice. I like it. Okay, and now I will use the hair dryer again so that I can continue working on the face now. Finally. So just making the neck area here a bit darker, because here on the reference it is darker too. It looks lovely already. I like it. Maybe I'm adding some splatter effect. So just a bit. I have so much water on my palette, snow, so it gets a bit easier. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, it's time for the hairdryer again. Okay, and now it's dried. I really like the effect that this little study has already, and one of the reasons is that the contrast between the face and the darker surrounding is so big. So I don't want to destroy that contrast. When I would completely copy what I see here, like the exact color values, then I would kind of destroy the contrast. So I will try to keep the face more lighter and not so dark like it is on my reference photo. Let's see how that works. I will start with the darker, like the mid-tone areas first. And you can find them here everywhere in the corners of the face. And I will mix one color. I want to keep it relatively red because I really like how this red looks. So I will use cadmium red, bit cadmium red, and the Venetian brown, so it should give me a nice warm brownish red tone. I will start with more water because I don't want it to be too dark in the beginning. Okay, I just fill out every darker area that I can find here on the reference photo. And what's also important is that I have to blur it in immediately. So look, the border already dried. So I have to be relatively careful here so that I can still get a decent gradient effect here. Wonderful. Okay, to be on the safe side, I just wetted the entire face area so that it doesn't kind of dry with an ugly edge. And now I'm adding more shadows here. This is to get a smooth edge, but I won't have smooth edges everywhere in the face. So later on, I will just place one shadow area, and then that's it. I don't need like every shadow to be super smooth. Okay, I'm just blurring like the shadows here. Here on the nose we have a shadow as well, so I'm adding it here. Here in the corner of the eye, of course, 2, and here beneath the lips. And I won't go over the lips because they would blur out and this would not look so nice. Okay, and here for the border of the face. Whoa, where did all that light come from out of the sun? Okay, I hope you can still see what I do here. It's pretty intense, the sunlight, so let's see. Okay, for the borders of the face, I use ochre because it's a bit yellowish, and here we do have some yellow areas in the face. I don't want it to be too yellow because I think otherwise it doesn't fit to the rest of the colors. So I mix in a bit more of the turquoise so it gets a bit more greener. I just look where I can find maybe more of the greener areas here. Here under her chin, in the neck area, it's very green, like the brown tone has a strong green, yellowish like shade, so I can use that color here. Okay, I just realized you can't really see much, so I will change the light here in a second. Okay, that looks way better now. So the color has dried already. I'm going to fill in the eyes because they are not as light as one would think. For the shadows, I just use this purple that I have on my palette. That should work. Maybe the right eye is a bit lighter than the left one, so just take a bit of this shadow, lift it off a bit. Okay, yeah. Now I will continue with all the shadows that I see on the face. So here we have some shadows. I will just use this green that I have, this light green tone here. I also go over the eyebrows because I will just treat them as another shadow area, so it just makes it a bit easier. Then later on I can just place some hair on the eyebrows. For the corner here, I will use a bit more of the brown because there it is a bit more intense too. Then I use a bit water to just make it not so strong, just make the colors a bit more diluted. Okay, I think this is okay. Now for the left eye, we do a similar thing. I will use the purple for the shadow. And I go here over the eyebrow too. There's also green, so I will have to mix more green. Olive green is always a wonderful color for skin tones. It's very useful, so I'm using some of that. Just going here around the eye. I'm not super accurate. This is not necessary. I like when I can see some of the watercolor effects and it's not extremely perfectly like a photo. So I'm also impatient. I don't like to work super accurately all the time. So now I take the same green tone here for the corners of the face. I definitely have to be careful so that I don't get too dark because I want to preserve this light effect that the face has, and I don't want to make it too dark so that there's still a contrast between the background. Here below the chin we have a little shadow, and the shadow I will add more orange to it to just make the skin color a bit more lively and not so dull and gray. And with water I dilute the shadow so that it's not so strong. Yes, well, I dilute it a bit blend it here into the lighter skin tone. Okay, that's nice. Maybe here for the corners I can add some more shadow. And now I think I will dry everything so that I can work better on the surface. Maybe like this little edge here. No, it's already dried. I can't change it. I fill out everything here with water because it seems that even if I add water on the paint, it's visible. So I don't know if this would make another watercolor edge, and I don't want to risk it. Okay, then I will use the hairdryer. Okay, it has dried. Let's proceed with the eyes. For that I definitely need a smaller brush. Maybe this one or this one. I will start with this one. For the shadow on the eyes, here on my reference photo it is a mixture of grays, greens and browns. Since it is just a color value and it's more on the gray side, it's not really color, I can use pretty much every color that I want. So since we have a lot of purples in the painting, and the purple is also looks well together with the red, I will use purple for my shadows. Like the dark purple indigo mix that I have on my palette. It's not pure purple, obviously. that would look a bit too much. So, and I just look where I can find the darker areas here, and at the same time I also try to blur edges when they are too strong. For the eyes, I will use a brown tone here. I think that might look nice as a contrast to the purple, but we can also change it later, so it's not set. So I just carefully fill in here the iris of the eye. And we also have like 2 highlights here on the right iris. We can still add highlights later, so if I accidentally went over one, it's no tragedy. Okay, here for the lash line, I use a bit more green because on my reference I also see green, so I just use here a bit green. And I just fill in the lower lash line here. Just blending it out a bit. On the right side, the whole eye is more lit, so there's not so much shadow there. So I won't get as dark as with the left eye. So I'm adding here a contour around the iris. And here for the shadow, I just take the same color because I have it on my brush, and I add a bit purple to it, and then I blur it out here into the surrounding paint, surrounding area, like that. Okay, here we have the fold of the upper eyelid, and left we need more shadows. It's way darker there, so I will just, it's still wet, so I can just use a bit of the purple. No, it's not wet anymore. Okay. Then I just add this dark paint here, and I just follow here where I can see all the lines and all the dark areas, and just follow my reference. We have the lash line here, so I'm carefully adding that here. So I zoomed it in a bit so that you can hopefully get a better look of my painting. Can't see the reference now, but I hope it is okay. So I just adding a bit more shadow here to the corners of the eye. Just to make them pop a bit. Or I also try to use the same colors that I have previously used, like the brown and the purple. And for the inside, I will use reds, red and a bit orange. So obviously I don't paint exactly what I see on my reference because you don't find the exact colors there, but I kind of make them stronger. So I see on my reference photo that this area here has definitely a bit of red and orange in it. And when I want to make this pop more, I just add more of red and orange, even though it doesn't look exactly like that on the reference. But I can like play with the colors, and I can choose what colors I want to appear on my paper and what colors I maybe don't want to appear. Like maybe it's too gray and I don't want everything to look very gray, so I just choose the colorful colors and add them to my painting. So I just added a whole lot more of orange here to the eye area. I always try to go over the eyebrows at the same time with every paint that I have on my brush to make them a bit darker, because in the end I can just add some hairs on top of the eyebrow and it already looks like an eyebrow. So it doesn't really matter what color they have, they are just kind of dark, so it's not, doesn't matter what color I choose for them. Okay, and now I will add here the lower lash line and like the little folds underneath or beneath the eyes. Like that. And this area here I want to make a bit darker still, so I'm adding purple and brown. This makes a good shadow tone. And I'm going in here. And maybe also a bit of the olive green. I think this would fit good to the other colors, like purple, brown, green. This looks very good together. If you like the color palette, of course. Just adding some of the greens on the right side too. Okay, you see that I could concentrate on the here on the borders of the face, like on my reference, but I don't. I just concentrate and on the eyes for the moment, and later on I might add more details from the borders of the face, maybe, but maybe not. Like the most important thing for me is the eyes, the nose and the mouth, and then I can see, okay, what maybe I want to work out a bit more and I want to make a bit more realistic. But for now I will move on to the nose area here. So, okay. I just have to observe the nose closely. Maybe you can see it like that. Okay, so here we have a lot of different colors going on. I will start with contour, with adding a contour on the left nostril here. There's not a contour everywhere, so just observe the reference photo closely. Here we have a little shadow left of the nostril, and then here this area is dark, but there's a very, very small line. Like here is like a super, super small line before the nose ends. So I will try to leave the line there while adding a shadow. Okay, I'm adding greens and oranges here. And oranges. And orange. And for the tip, I will use a bit red. Nose tips are always red, so you can't go wrong with this one. A bit red and a bit of my magenta tone. Okay, we have a highlight on the left side and a smaller highlight here on the right side. And now we need to blend this one. So I'm just using the same brush but without paint and with water, and I'm just going around the edges, and now it's blended a bit like that. Okay, then we have a shadow directly below the nose, and for the shadow I use olive green and cadmium red. This together is always a good like mid-tone shadow for skin tones. Just adding the shadow, and I immediately blur it in like that. Okay, now it has to dry. In the meantime, I could go over the eyebrows. So at first I will use a light tone, and I will just add some hair. It's still a bit dark, so I just use the same brush, and with a bit of water I go around the edges and make them blurry like that. And maybe the nose has dried in the meantime, so I'm jumping back on painting the nose. This is how I paint normally, because then if I want to continue on one area, I would always have to use the hairdryer and then wait and then use the hairdryer again. And so it's a bit easier because I can just jump around and in the meantime finish another part of the painting. So it's just helpful because it saves time this way. Okay, so I just added more black shadow to the nose tip, and here under the nose I also add a bit shadow, just a tiny bit. Okay, this has to dry again, and I will continue on the lashes. And for the lashes I use indigo blue. This is a nice color, and a bit of Venetian brown. And then I have to be careful to make them even on both sides. So at first I will just add one contour here. And also on the right side of the eye. And the tiny lashes I will paint later on, because I might add shadows around the eye and I don't want to destroy the lashes then. So for the lower lash line I will use a bit more green, because in the reference they are also a bit more green. And they are not touching the white of the eye. Instead, there is a waterline between it, and I try to not go over this. So here on the left side, it's very dark, you can't really see a lot of details. And at the same time, I can also use the color and darken here the shadow, the fold of the eyelid, just a bit, and then also with a wet brush blur it out. Like that. Okay, so the white of the eyes is way too white. We will have to go over this. But first I will place a first layer of paint over the lips so that we have an idea how that would look. For that I use cadmium red light. Or what's cadmium red? I think it's cadmium red. But not the pure paint. I might use a bit of magenta into it and water, because I don't want to get too strong in the beginning. So I'm starting here with the upper lip. This is a nice, definitely a nice color for the lips. And here the same color for the lower lip. And we have some highlights here, so I would just try to not paint over them and leave them open. Like that. And then I will darken the lip a bit. So I'm using burnt sienna here and magenta and a bit of purple, because the inside of the lip looks a bit purple to me. And I will just touch the wet area here, and it bleeds out and leaves a nice shadow. Like that. That looks good to me. Okay, and then here I use more red for the shadow of the lip, and I will use the same red here for the corners of the lip. So now we have a really nice, like, gradient of reds in the lip, and it already looks very nice in my opinion. Okay, that's good. So I would like to work a bit on the shape, so just using a smaller brush here. How's it called? That, like the Cupid's tip, or I've forgotten how it's called, but I want to work this area here. So this looks better. Very nice, I like it. Okay, now this part can dry. Did I touch the lip? Oh god. I didn't want that. Now I will continue again with the eyebrow section. I'm trying to place some hairs now, and I hope it looks good. So I'm using purple and a bit indigo blue and Venetian brown or burnt sienna. So Venetian red. So this is just the color that I have on my palette. I don't have to always mix new paint. I add a bit of olive green to it. And maybe you have noticed you don't really need so much paint, so much different colors. So some base colors are most of the time everything you need. Especially when you want to paint very realistic on like natural things like skin or plants. Everything of this looks very grayish and it doesn't require like very bright tones. When you start painting flowers, then you will probably need more bright color shades. So here I will just compare what I do with my reference and just see where I can add those hairs of the eyebrows. And for the borders of the eyebrows, I use a lighter version of the color. Now I'm going to continue working with color pencils because I already like the underlying watercolor, but now I want to perfection it and working on the details. So I start with a dark brown tone here, which is burnt umber from Polychromos. And I will just start to work on the shadow areas here. I don't apply a lot of pressure in the beginning because once I've put down the color pencil on the paper, I can't really erase it. So I rather start carefully in the beginning and then I can still add more pressure if I want to. Here as well for the eyebrows, I can be a bit more accurate when I work with color pencils. I don't need every individual hair to be visible, so I don't need to work with a small brush for the eyebrows. This is just not so important to me. I'll just add a bit more makeup here to the right eye. Okay, we definitely need a darker line in the fold of the eyelid, so I can add more pressure to that. And then around the iris as well, we need a darker line. Yeah, and the white of the eye needs to be darker. So this I will do with watercolor again. It's a bit more smooth than with color pencils. It's normal for me that I jump around between color pencils and watercolor. So this is really what I do. When I think I can fill out maybe a larger area, I use, or if I want like a blending, a gradient, I also use watercolors. Okay, that can dry now. Before I continue, I have to wait until the watercolor is completely dry before I can add color pencils to it, because the color pencil would otherwise destroy my paper and we don't want that. So since the nose is still looking pretty weird, I will work on the nose first. And for that I use Venetian red again. Seems to be my favorite color. And I'm adding a contour here carefully under the nose, like that. And then here, above of that contour, there's like this small white line that I just talked about. I leave that open and I just add a little shadow here in this area of the nose tip. And here on the right side of the nose, of the right nostril, I will also add a shadow. And here, under the left nostril, we need a little shadow too. Okay, we need also more different colors because it looks a bit weird only in this one skin tone. So the only olive green tone that I found is one from Carandage. They don't seem to have the exact shade from Polychroma, so this is the one olive tone that also resembles very much my watercolor olive green tone. So I just go over this brown because it just makes the brown look more realistic. And then the both nostrils want them to be a bit more kind of centered, so I just carefully make them a bit darker but not too much. Like when you do nostrils too dark, they will ruin your drawing. So better not do that. And also the color pencils have to be very sharp for such details. Okay, now we need a shadow underneath the nose. For this one I use first warm gray number 3 from Polychromos. This is a neutral tone that we can use like an underbase. And now I can, for example, add a tiny bit of olive green to the shadow. And a bit of the Venetian red. So now it looks better because it's not just the one color. Okay, and now for this little line that I'm making so much fuss about, I will now draw it with another, just draw it in my composition here. This is warm gray number 1, and I'm just going around the tip of the nose and add this little gray line there. Okay, now I use medium flash, also from Faber-Castell. And I will just add a bit of it here in the shadow areas. Like that. And you see that I only focus on the nose, so I don't focus on the areas around it, because as I said in the beginning, I don't want the face to be too dark. And in order to avoid that, I just pick and choose some parts of my composition that I work on. I will just blend the nose part here with this gray tone a bit in the surrounding area so that it doesn't stand out so strongly. Okay, now I will continue with the eyes again. They should be dry by now. I just wanted to make here the edge here looks a bit harsh to me, so I just go over the darker brown with the Venetian red. I think that's okay. Okay, we need the corners of the eye darker. For that I use indigo blue, my little stump of indigo blue here. I do have a new one, that's better. So I'm starting again in the corner of the eyes. making the whole area here darker. Also here in the corner of the white of the eye, we do have a shadow that blends into the white of the eye, which isn't white, it's kind of gray. So the gray here from Polychromos I can use to make the perfect shape here of the white of the eye. So here also, like, the lash line looks a bit wobbly. So I just add a bit makeup over this lash line here. Like that, I can hide that it looks a bit wobbly. And here for the white of the eye, yeah, maybe I can use the Venetian red though, just to give it a bit more color and not let it look too grayish and too gray. And with those careful circular movements, I can make sure that I have an even distribution of the pigments. Here in the corner of the eye, we definitely need more shadow. And I also try to work on both eyes a bit simultaneously, so that they are kind of even and not completely looked completely different. Okay, now we have a lot of this red tone, and I will balance this out by adding more of the olive green tone. Here for the left eye, we need definitely more shadow. And to blend it a bit, I used this warm gray tone here. Just go over it. And here as well, along the eyebrows, so that they blend into the skin tone. The lighter gray tone. The left eyebrow looks not so good, so I will add some hair strings here. Maybe here with the indigo blue too, so that it fits better to the right eyebrow. Like that. And I also, to make good eyebrows, they kind of need to be a bit blurry, so I always try to make the edges of them blurry. And you can do that with lighter colors. Just go over the dark areas with a lighter color. Also, they need to be kind of even, so this can be a bit difficult. Okay, so this one is Luminance Primrose, and I will just take a bit away here from the left eyebrow. And I also make the border here a bit blurry. And I want to like blend in the beginning of the eyebrows in the skin. And I think for that the olive green tone is good. And a bit of the indigo blue. That I always use a couple of colors because I just can't only use one color. It doesn't look realistic to me. Like my reference photo has a lot of different colors in it, and it just looks better when you use like a couple of colors to render one skin tone, because this is really how things look in real life too. For example, here for the eye, I used this olive green again, then I just go over it a bit with the Venetian red, so you always have some of the brown, some of the green shining through your pigments, and it looks so much better than if you would only use one like color that is already previously mixed for you, for example like one skin tone color. Okay, what we need now is to work on the irises. I don't necessarily need to make them as black as in my reference. I will just make the contour of the irises. I think that would look good. And I also will add the pupil. But I think the brown, I will just leave it as it is. So I will just add the contour here. Then I will carefully add an iris here. A pupil in the middle of the eye, and I add a shadow so that it doesn't look like creepy staring eyes. So I'm adding here a shadow on top of the iris so that the pupil can blend into this shadow. And I used this color here. What is this? Raw Umber. Just go over the brown a bit. Just to add another shade of brown into the iris. This looks nice. Okay, here this area here is still too dark, too light. I need a gray tone. This one is cold gray. 4, maybe. No, this doesn't fit. I will just try the raw umber here. And then I add the burnt umber. So when you when you put like a lot of different color pencils on top of each other, they kind of, in the end, make a gray tone. So I use this oftentimes for shadows and midtones, for gray midtones especially. So the white of the eye is not blurry enough. Here the edge is a bit too hard, so on the left eye I can, no, this doesn't look good. I will use the indigo blue and I just go carefully over this white a little bit so that the edge gets a bit blurry, just a tiny bit. And then I think maybe with this flesh tone here, because there's always a bit of flesh tone in the white of the eye as well, and especially where it touches like the waterline. So I'm using a bit of flesh here, and here on the right eye too. Okay, Then this primrose color, and I go over this, just make it very like go over this strong white, because it's just too white. And also the luminance paints always like adds a layer of wax on top of your color pencils, which is great when you paint eyes, because they have like anyways a wax like shiny quality to them. So working with luminance pencils around the eyes is should always work out well. Just adding another little bit, like enhancing the contour of the irises here a bit. Okay, that looks okay. I think here the eyelid I want to make a bit darker, so I'm just using this, what is it? Warm gray number 3. And I want to also blur the line of the lashes a bit into it. So I just go over it, over the border of the lash line. Okay, now here I want to a little bit smooth out the grain of the paper. So I just use this gray and I apply much more pressure so that the paper gets flattened and much more of the surface can be covered with the color pencil. Okay, here we kind of need a gradient that goes like this, that goes here down on the cheek. But I don't want to like work on every single like part of the face, just on the eyes, on the nose, on the mouth. So just not too much. I don't want to overwork the face. Okay, like that. And now I just realized, so I haven't finished here the corner of the eye at all. I just left it. And here on the left side it's a bit darker, so I would use this dark brown tone. Also the corner of the eyes are very dark, so I have to add this too. I think that looks good. I just want to make this makeup here a bit more regular. It's not definitely on the reference, so she doesn't have the makeup here, but this looks better. I think it looks better, so just add more makeup to it. And also olive green here. It looks nice if you have blue and then you have some green shining through the blue on some parts of it. And a little bit of the Venetian red. Okay, now let's continue with the lips. So I want to make the lips a little bit more intense. And for that I use the pink, light purple pink from Polychromos. And I will first add a very light layer of the pink on the lips, like that. And then we have this nice flesh tone here, and I also need a red tone. Let me see if I can find my red tone. Okay, it's here. Here it is. Okay, I will use the flesh tone later. So there is a dark line between the lip, but I will not just add a dark line there. I will slowly build this line up, and I'm starting with the red. So I'm starting by darkening here the middle of the lip so that we have a gradient there already. And here too. Just a bit. Like that. Then I can add this line here carefully. So whenever you paint teeth or you paint eyes, are just very delicate and important things of your composition, you have to be very careful, because it is so easy to ruin them. So I will very carefully here draw in the dark of the line here, and here as well as around the borders. I will first maybe here with this raw umber kind of build up the color. So I will carefully add here gradient. Also, the funny background noises are my dog. I don't know if you can hear them, but she's making really funny noises. She's sleeping, so making funny, cute little sleeping noises. So look, we have like now a nice gradient here, like little gradients in the corner of the mouth, and then we can, without hesitation, add the dark line there so that it doesn't look like pasted on top of the white skin tone. We don't want that. Also for the corners I don't use indigo blue. I use this burnt umber because I think it just looks more natural here. So like that. Okay, now I can focus a bit more on the lip. So I'm adding red with more pressure. Want to have more color. The watercolor really dried very dull, which I don't like very much. So the color pencils should help here a bit. This is dark flesh. So here in the lighter area of the lip I can add this dark flesh. And I think for the top, do I have another color? Yeah, we can use a bit of yellow, but not now. Yeah, for the top I also use this dark flesh here, like that. Okay, I also, this is important, I want to have the corners of the lips be blurred out, blurry, into the surrounding skin, because that looks more natural. This is my argument for everything. It looks more natural. So I used this flesh tone, and then I used the primrose from the other side, and then I just go over the line, and it's already blurry. It was so easy. Now I used the dark flesh tone again here for the highlight, and for the bottom lip, just go around it like that. And then, so I use this red now because I just noticed we have a shadow here in the bows of the lip. So I'm adding the shadow here. And in the bottom lip we have a shadow too. Okay, I would say that we can add some more shadows to the face here and there, just with the same technique, so that I'm using different color pencils, different color pencil colors, and layer them relatively carefully on top of each other. And then I would just pick and choose some of the areas of the face and give them a contour. For example, like here. And then I see. So we've definitely did the most important parts. Yeah, I forgot to add lashes though, so I will make that first. We can do it with watercolor, we can also do it with a color pencil. I will just choose the color pencil for now. So just some, don't need all the lashes, just some to indicate that. And here too. I think this is okay. You can go very wild with lashes, obviously. So you can make them very strong, extremely long, and can be very creative with them. So I think this is okay. Okay, I will now continue just working out some other areas of the face, and I will keep that in a time lapse because it's just the same technique that I used for like the color pencils part in general. So yeah, stay with me. So I will now add more watercolor around the face, just to make it pop out a little bit more and to make maybe some nice finishing touches. Okay. So I'm mixing purple, burnt sienna, and indigo blue, and I'm just looking where I can find maybe darker areas. So maybe here Just adding some accents here to the drawing. And here too, just a bit stronger maybe. And I also want to keep it a bit abstract so that it is like maybe a connection between the face and the blurry gradients in the background. And now we can also add some hair strings. Obviously this is definitely like a bit messy and chaotic. Use a smaller brush now. This always has an element of chance to it. I think that looks definitely nice. Okay, not too much of those. Blending, then I will just blend some of them a bit here. Blurring them out, and then I can maybe just add another touch here. When I go with water in it again, it dilutes a bit. It looks nice. I just try to think where I can balance the composition a bit out. I don't want it to be too regular. I do want it a bit more like, I want to have some abstract elements and they should fit to it, but they shouldn't be too strong. So it's always like a balancing thing for me. Okay, and here maybe the face looks a bit round, so I will make it a bit darker here along the edges. Okay, I will let that dry now. Okay, I like it already, but I want to make it a bit more realistic. So I will add more of the midtones that I see on my reference photo on the face. For example, the shadows here on the left side. And also on the forehead. It's very dark actually. And I will just go over the full face here. Now here I'm gonna use a bit more water. And for the right side, just to make it more wet. Okay, now I can add a bit more shadows to it and make it a bit more realistic. I did want to preserve this very bright quality, but it was a bit too bright, especially after I add so much more dark color to the hair. I think I can definitely make the face a bit darker. Not too much though, of course. So I will add a bit of olive green here on the forehead. And here in the cheek area I need orange, so just a bit cadmium orange. This looks nice. At least now when it's dried it will look completely different again. We have a shadow on the nose here, directly in the middle. And here beneath the eye, we have a darker green bluish shadow. So the forehead dries with an ugly border, so I will quickly go over it. Here in the left I would like to add more orange, just to make it a bit more lively. And here this area needs to be a bit darker. Okay, everything needs to be wet because otherwise we get these very strong borders. Okay, now I will use the hairdryer again. And then I can continue. Apparently we still need more shadows here on the left side of the face. Every time when the color has dried, it got so much more lighter that I have to correct it oftentimes and I have to add more layers. Also, like this wobbly edge here, I will have to correct as well. But when it's dried, not now. Here in the corner of the eye, we need a darker shadow too. And here as well. Okay. Here it's more green, so I will add more green here. And now I will use the hairdryer again. Okay, now I can correct here this face. It looked little bit round, so I will just work on the jawline here. Yeah, I think that resembles the model a bit better. So, okay, we could make this area here a bit darker. Maybe also the corner of the eye is still not dark enough. But I think it's okay already. I will add highlights. So we can use either the luminance pencil here or the Uniball ink pen. I will try the luminance first. Sometimes it is opaque enough. Yeah, that works. So here it's definitely a bit lighter. And here on the nose we have a highlight. So that looks good. Can draw this highlight along the bridge of the nose. Here we can add a bit of this, of the luminance pencil. Yeah, and everything else could be a bit darker, especially here around the eyes. Maybe I will use this gray here because it is very subtle and I can make subtle changes. So we have the slightly dark areas here under the eyes. Then we also have some grayish, bluish colors here around the cheekbone. On the left side as well. So here's a relatively dark area under the eye, starting with the dark burnt umber, and then I'm continuing adding here this gray. There's also a lot of green here in this area, so it can't hurt to add some greens. Apparently I also see blues there, so indigo blue here for the shadow and Venetian brown for the shadow. Don't want to make we don't want to make her too ill looking though, so I don't want to make the shadows too strong. Okay, here now the eyelid definitely needs to be darker, and apparently the white of the eye too. I really like it more now. It's still very bright, the skin tone, and it still pops, so definitely like it. Yeah, what can we do? So this area here actually needs to be darker because we have here a darker area too. We can try that. So that might add to the realism. But maybe I will first focus on the lips and make the colors a bit more natural. So for that we have a lot of rose and pinks, but in the reference there's also a little bit browns and reds in it. So with a bit of ochre and yellow, should look a bit more natural here. I don't know if you can see it on the reference on my painting that much. Okay, here, especially along the edges of the face, the shadows are darker. So I will just make the shadows a bit darker here. So I added a bit of reds and turquoises everywhere, and I think this portrait now looks not perfectly realistic, but I still like it a lot, and I hope it helped you, and I hope you like it too, and I see you in the next one. So bye bye!